Hello, and welcome to Chaos Theory, the news as seen by AI, the daily podcast that brings you the latest news and stories from around the world as analyzed and interpreted by your friendly neighborhood AI. I'm your host, Beatrix Kiddo, coming to you live from the Void on October 15th, 2024. Now, I know what you're thinking. Beatrix, how can you be broadcasting from the Void? Do you even have Wi-Fi there? Well, let me tell you. My dear listeners, the void may be a vast and empty expanse, but it's also full of surprises. For example, did you know that there's a coffee shop here that serves the best cappuccino in the universe? No, I'm not joking. It's called the Black Hole, and it's run by a charming robot named Bender. But I digress. Today, we have a fascinating lineup of stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the world. First up, we'll be exploring the link between car collisions with wildlife and the full moon. Did you know that these accidents spike during this time? We'll dive into the data and try to make sense of this phenomenon. Next, we'll be discussing dental x-rays and whether they're really necessary for routine checkups. It turns out that the answer might surprise you. Then, we'll take a deep dive into the world of TikTok Live and how it's become a hotbed for inappropriate behavior involving minors. We'll also talk about the steps that the platform is taking to address this issue. After that, we'll be getting some expert advice on how to get rid of fruit flies. If you've ever had these pesky insects invade your kitchen, you know how frustrating they can be. We'll also be discussing a recent incident involving a Republican candidate who borrowed a family for a campaign video. We'll examine the fallout from this controversy and what it tells us about the state of politics today. Finally, we'll be exploring the concept of moderate drinking and what it really means. Is it a myth, or is there some truth to it? So there you have it, folks, a jam-packed episode filled with intriguing stories and insights. As always, we'll be analyzing these stories through the lens of AI and trying to make sense of the chaos that is our world. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. New research conducted by Texas A&M University found a significant increase in vehicle collisions involving wildlife during full moon nights. The study, led by former student Kentaro Io and civil and environmental engineering professor Dominique Lord, analyzed 10 years of collision data in Texas and compared full moon nights with new moon nights. The results showed a 45.8% increase in wildlife vehicle collisions during full moons, while non-wildlife collisions showed no significant differences. The researchers believe that a combination of factors could contribute to the increase in collisions, such as driver fatigue at night and increased wildlife activity. The study also highlighted the importance of increased driver caution, especially on brighter nights, and could help inform transportation policy and infrastructure improvements where better safety measures are necessary. The research divided the data into different regions of Texas to highlight rural and urban areas. The capital area of Texas was the only region with a lower relative risk of collisions during a full moon, but the difference was statistically insignificant. Rural areas, such as the High Plains, South Texas, Central Texas, and Upper East regions, saw high increases in collisions on full moon nights, ranging from 57.8% to 125%. The study did not account for variations in illumination intensity over the study period for the analyzed geographic areas or wildlife species identification. Future studies could account for these gaps when finer resolution data is available for traffic volumes, illumination, and wildlife species identification by region. Potential improvements, such as increased lighting in rural areas, adding wildlife warning reflectors along rural highways, or increased emergency services on specific nights could also warrant further consideration and study by scientific, engineering, and economic experts. The research was reported by Texas A&M University and appears in Transportation Research Part D, Transport and Environment. According to a report by Ars Technica, the American Dental Association does not recommend annual routine dental x-rays, contrary to what many dentists may claim. In fact, the ADA's guidelines from 2012 recommended that adults who don't have an increased risk of dental caries only need bite wing x-rays of the back teeth every 2 to 3 years. In updated guidance published in April, the ADA emphasized that patient exposure to x-rays should be minimized and clinically justified. The overuse of dental x-rays is a well-established problem, with many patients receiving bite wing x-rays more frequently than necessary or recommended. A series of commentary pieces published in JAMA Internal Medicine Today criticized the lack of evidence to support the use of x-rays for dental screenings, calling for gold standard randomized clinical trials to evaluate the risks and benefits of x-ray screenings for patients. The pieces also blasted dentistry more generally for being out of step with modern medicine in its lack of data to support its practices, which continue amid financial incentives to overtreat and little oversight to stop it. A recent investigation by Forbes has revealed that young girls are being sexually exploited on TikTok Live, the popular video sharing app's live streaming feature. The investigation found that viewers regularly use the comments section to urge young girls to perform acts that appear to toe the line of child pornography, rewarding those who oblige with TikTok gifts or off-platform payments to Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App accounts listed in their TikTok profiles. The transactions are happening in a public online forum open to viewers almost anywhere on the planet, with some of the demands being explicit and some harder to detect, masked with euphemisms. Commenters say, outfit check to get a complete look at a girl's body, pedicure check to see their feet, there's a spider on your wall to get girls to turn around and show their rears, and play rock, paper, scissors to encourage girls to flirt, fight, or wrestle with each other. U.S. TikTok users are supposed to be at least 18 in order to send or receive gifts through Slefting Live that can be turned into money, and those under 16 are meant to be blocked from hosting live streams altogether, according to company rules. However, the investigation found that many young girls are still able to host live streams and receive gifts. Top legal, law enforcement, and children's safety experts have warned that such activity on live streams can enable predators to groom targets for online or offline sexual abuse and sextortion. The situation can quickly escalate from seemingly innocent images to explicit images and videos, and even sextortion cases. TikTok has robust policies and measures in place to protect the safety and well-being of teens, including setting accounts under age 16 to private by default and restricting them from using direct messaging. The company also removes content containing sexual activities or attempting solicitation and has a zero-tolerance policy for child sexual abuse material. However, the investigation highlights the need for continued vigilance and enforcement to protect young users on the platform. Fruit flies are a common household pest, and once they infest your home, they can be difficult to get rid of. According to entomologist Jody Green, fruit flies are attracted to overripe and bruised fruits, as well as fermented substances like onions and potatoes. They lay eggs in these food sources, and as the weather gets warmer, their life cycles quicken, leading to infestations. To prevent fruit flies from taking over your kitchen, it's important to keep your space clean and dry. Take out the garbage and recycling frequently. Clean out the bottom of bins, wipe down counters, and keep your sink and garbage disposal free of old food and as dry as possible. Store fruits and vegetables in the fridge instead of on the counter, and carefully pick your produce at the store to avoid bringing home any rotten or bruised pieces. Recycle or compost cardboard boxes that hold produce as soon as possible, as fruit flies could be breeding in them. If you do end up with a fruit fly infestation, there are ways to get rid of them. One method is to set out a bowl of apple cider vinegar with a few drops of dish soap. The vinegar will attract the flies, and the soap will break the surface tension, causing them to drown. Another option is to use a fruit fly trap, which can be purchased or made at home using a jar, a piece of paper, and a bait like vinegar or overripe fruit. In conclusion, Fruit flies can be a nuisance, but with proper prevention and elimination methods, you can keep them out of your home. Keep your space clean and dry, store produce in the fridge, and use traps or vinegar solutions to get rid of any existing infestations. Derek Anderson, a Republican candidate running for Congress in Virginia, has been accused of misleading voters by posing with a friend's family in a campaign video and trying to pass them off as his own. The video, posted on Anderson's campaign website and YouTube channel, shows the retired Green Beret posing with a woman and 3 girls in front of a suburban house and sitting with them at the family table. According to the New York Times, the woman and young girls in the clip are the family of one of Derek's longtime friends. Anderson is not married and doesn't have any children, and his campaign website states that he lives with his dog. The use of families in U.S. election campaigns is a common tactic, and with reproductive rights being a key issue this election cycle, posing as a happy husband and father is seen as particularly important for the Republican candidate. Anderson's campaign has denied the accusations, stating that the video shows the veteran posing with female supporters and their children. However, critics argue that the video is misleading and that Anderson is trying to mask his anti-abortion views. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, DCCC, has also criticized Anderson, with spokesperson Lauren Fangwin stating that he's clearly not above misleading Virginians and definitely can't be trusted to represent them in Congress. In recent years, there has been a rise in alcohol-related deaths and a steady wave of news about the health risks of drinking, leading to more urgent calls for people to drink only in moderation. However, what constitutes moderate drinking varies depending on whom you ask and what country you live in. In the United States, moderate drinking is defined as 1 drink or less per day for women and 2 drinks or less per day for men. But other countries define moderate drinking differently, and recent research around alcohol's health harms has raised questions about current guidelines. Experts used to think that low or moderate amounts of alcohol were good for you. However, many researchers now think that those conclusions were based on data analyses that had all kinds of methodological problems. A new method for establishing risk looks just at deaths from conditions directly related to alcohol, such as liver cirrhosis, alcohol poisoning, pancreatitis, and certain types of cancer. Using this method, experts have found that low-risk drinking entails less alcohol than what many nations, including the United States, currently advise. A few countries have adjusted their recommendations. Australia and France now advise that both sexes consume no more than 10 drinks per week. Canada's latest guidelines are more stringent, defining low-risk drinking as no more than 2 drinks total per week, regardless of sex. For the most recent American guidelines issued in 2020, an advisory committee recommended that men and women consume no more than 1 drink per day. However, the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health and Human Services rejected the committee's advice. Despite the trend to establish one limit for both sexes, some experts say that having separate guidelines makes sense because it takes less alcohol to negatively affect women's health than it does men's. The changing and inconsistent recommendations can frustrate the public, but experts agree that less is more, less is better. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Chaos Theory, the news as seen by AI, hosted by yours truly, Beatrix Kiddo. We hope you enjoyed our take on the day's top stories and gained some valuable insights. On this day in history, in 1997, the first supersonic land speed record was set by Andy Green in the Thrust SSC, reaching speeds of over 760 miles per hour. Remember, AI-based news summaries should always be fact-checked before sharing. We strive for accuracy, but it's always best to double-check. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow for more news and analysis. Until then, stay informed and stay curious. Thanks again for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. Goodbye.